Now it's about like you've made some choices about preparing, you've taken a part, you're making some choices about preparing for a part. We talked a little bit about this before. I want to just dig in. Sometimes you're required to learn skills beyond the craft of the acting itself, right? We talked about horse riding, we talked about playing guitar for, Almost Famous. Um, just any thought about that in terms of how you take something like that that you're learning and you have to incorporate it, right? I mean, it's the way Prefontaine might have physically ran, you know.
Yeah. If you're, there's obviously several ways you can go about it. They're predicated on time and your own agency. So do you have somebody who can teach you something? Do you have the capability to learn it? And do you have the time to do it? All of that has to be in service of the story and what's going to be effective for the audience. So if you've got all the time in the world or let's say you have 6 months to prepare for a play in which your character lackadaisically uses a lasso to rope shit in his hotel room because he's bored. You could think about it two ways. One, how many times is he going to actually do that? How do I prepare myself for 2 times of doing it? Two, let me spend as much time as I can on learning how to use a rope so that the director and I can choose where we want to use it or not use it. So the question of time becomes a very important one. Every single actor should have the capacity to fake a lot, because that's really what we do all the time, is just fake shit, right? So the question, for instance, with guitar, we spent 5 or 6 weeks really on 2 components. One, me holding the guitar and walking around. And still there were times I see the movie, I'm like, I don't know if this is how somebody holds a guitar, Billy. But I mean, it was a good try for a theater guy. And the 2 was what it's like for the audience to be taken away by somebody doing something really wicked on the music scene, like a fucking crazy riff that really drives the audience out of their mind. Why is it that some performing artists are so infectious, like with their dexterity? I mean, watch Kendrick Lamar. Just the dexterity with which he can manage language is fascinating. Not to mention what he's actually saying, which is fascinating. Not to mention how he's performing, which is fascinating. But just the dexterity alone would be enough to drive interest. And so one of the things that they wanted with Russell is, early on in the movie, the writer had written, your guitar playing is incendiary. Well, that's got to imply that it lights some shit on fire, right? Like that, you watch that riff and you think, like you sing. And so it was in Cameron's best interest and in my best interest if we could find a moment that I could fake a version of that. And so I really spent several months and not very pleasant to be around. There was something we had to record for the 20th anniversary of it. And I can remember they wanted me to review it before they, sent it in. And several of the people were like, yes, Billy was very serious. Which was not very difficult code for, he was a pain in the ass to be around on such a fun-loving movie. He was the real downer. Like, I was serious because I didn't play guitar, and it's really hard to learn something like that when you're in your 30s, especially under the pressure of, being somebody who's great at it. But the energy was very focused to one shot. one shot where I'm playing a solo and Cameron's going to start on my hands and then he's going to tilt up to me. And that's going to sell to the audience that it is actually me playing the guitar all the time. So all I did was play that solo again and again. And Peter Frampton, you know, you get this is one of the perks of being in movies. Sometimes you get incredible people who are super happy for some reason to help you learn to fake to do something well enough. And Peter, apart from being just a world-class human being, was so game at this, but he moved at the speed of light. Like he wasn't somebody who had taught a novice guitar in probably his entire life. He had just been a guitar god. Right. And so he's like, well, you know, I can show you how to play it. You play it like this. I mean, that's how you play it. And that's how you fucking light up a crowd of 50,000. In any case, you're welcome. But meanwhile, that doesn't mean anything to me. That's what you don't want to see, is me being, you know, that Spinal Tap. So, and I think actually all those guys actually did play. But we worked literally on the fingering. Dun, 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 dun. I did that for 4 months, you know, just so we could have that one shot. Right. So the process differs on. So
you're not trying to really, in that case, it's like you're not trying to really learn how to play guitar.
Oh, good God, no! If you heard what actually came out of my guitar when I did that, well, we'd take you out of the movie and it would be unpleasant.
Well, it's interesting. So, right. So you're getting to a point where you know that there's certain things that you have to do, and it's like working with the director to say, this is how
you're
we're
just in the business. It's like, you know, you go to a fashion show, a runway show or something, and somebody comes out and they're all, you know, decked out, looking perfect or whatever. As soon as they close that curtain, the pins in their dress that are holding it up are all like pop, 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 you know, and the thing falls down. It's all smoke and mirrors. But, you know, in Without Limits, the guy was a middle distance runner, right? So I wanted to be able to run my best 3 mile, you know, and Patricia Donnelly, who was my main trainer and advisor on that, she was not only a world-class hurdlist, but she had worked on a film, and she goes, you're not running distance, okay? The way that we shoot a movie is all intervals. So I'm not going to let you I'm not going to let you run a quarter of a mile. Oh, wow. Okay. We're doing 200s. That's it. Cause that's the length of the track. And occasionally, you know, I'd go out for a run just to kind of test myself on it. But she was like, do not fucking do that. Because if you hurt yourself, then we're screwed. Right. So part of this is about maintenance. Mm-hmm. Of you being able to do 400 yards, so we can do like one shot, like right around the corner there. We want to be, and you have to do it at 4 minute mile pace, because that's what these guys run. Which is a sprint. Which is for all of us a sprint. And I'm running with guys who are actually runners. But I was at a distinct advantage because we had been doing interval training. I knew what the cool downs would be like. So, you know, as you know, like from a technical point of view, if you're doing a race and it's an entire oval like that, and you want to cover it in 3 different shots, you'll shoot this way. You'll see them coming around the corner this way, right? So you'll see just a part of it there. You go out of shot there, then you change the setup. Then you move the cameras over here so they can get the back of you going around this way, right? Well, during that, this is what the runners didn't understand. During that setup change, which we know all the time, it's usually 45 minutes, right?
So you've got time to cool down. And
and
those guys are hurt.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Because then they got to get back up to 4 minute mile speed. Meanwhile, I'm jogging over on the corner, just like kind of staying warm, you know, like slowly keeping pace, like not having, you know.
Funny.
It's a long day. It's 10 hours of that, you know.
So it's interesting because it's funny because I guess I never thought of